So this is going to be an interesting topic for today's video. It's going to be a little bit different one where it's going to be me just chatting to you guys about my thoughts and opinions on the risk of investing when it comes to Pokemon. Now, of course, there's always going to be a risk when you invest in anything. This is a bit of a topic where I haven't necessarily done a video on this before, but it definitely is a big part of putting your money towards anything, and I've mentioned it before a little bit in different videos and especially on the live streams. We've talked about this before, but I thought today I would make a video talking to you guys about the risks not only that I face, but of course any of you guys may face when investing in Pokemon, because obviously there are going to be risks pretty much everywhere, but there's certain things that you got to consider and keep at the back of your mind, which we will go through in today's video. So strap in. This is going to be me, another one of these rambling type videos, which you guys love the last one, so we're back again doing another one. But today we'll be talking about risking, or the risks as it were, when putting your money towards Pokemon investing, whether or not that would be collecting or sealed. Now, of course, when you buy Pokemon products, whether it be booster boxes, ETBs, you're always going to run the risk, right? You always run several risks, you know, because at the end of the day, we're all going to be putting our hard-earned money into these products, whether or not we're keeping them sealed, whether or not we are opening them. There's always a risk, right? When you buy a booster box and you crack it open, you run the risk of not really getting your value or your money's worth, or even good pulls, right? I mean, I've opened up an Evolving Skies booster box when the set first came out, and I pulled 6 regular V cards. That was it. I did a live stream where I opened up a box. The set recently just came out, and I pulled 6 V cards. Now back then the booster box was like 100, 110, so you know it wasn't the be all end all. But could you imagine now? Could you imagine buying, spending 650, 700 and pulling 6 regular V cards? It would be terrible. It would feel so bad. But of course that's the risk of cracking open product. Of course, it is the way it is. But there are also risks of buying boxes or buying products and keeping them sealed. Now, there has been a lot of talk recently about Pokemon investing, or specifically the Pokemon investing channel, similar to mine. And it's like, not enough people talk about the risks, you know, or specifically mention the risks all the time. And of course, there are risks. And so I thought, you know what, today I'll do a video where I'm specifically talking about what risks have I taken on, and, you know, what could happen, you know, hypothetically, you know, down the line of certain products. Because yes, as a rule, most sealed products go up in value over time. It's all just based on supply and demand, and it's not everything. I can say this now, and I've already been stung by certain stuff. Not everything goes up straight away. Sometimes you might have to wait a while, or you might have to wait a long time. It's just the way the game is, right? So I'll give you some examples of things that we could look out for when, you know, buying and investing in Pokemon. The first one I want to talk about is printing. So like printing and reprinting, they kind of should be in 2 separate categories, but they're also kind of similar, right? How much is a set printed, right? Some sets have a high amount of print run, some don't. As a lot of you guys know, that Team Up from Sun and Moon era is ridiculously expensive. That set was short printed, or had a low print run, which means there's less amount of the product initially out there. And of course, you know, more and more the Pokemon company is trying to get the supply to meet demand. And I kind of feel like now in the Scarlet and Violet era, they kind of are achieving that, to be fair. They're doing very well. And at the end of the day, I'm all here for a good amount of supply, right? I don't like the fact that, you know, we had during the pandemic so many sets that were ridiculously hard to get hold of. We saw massive high, let's be honest, inflated prices. Yeah, we saw the prices of products go absolutely crazy, higher than what they should have been. I remember over here in the UK, we were seeing Shining Fates, I think it just released, and ETBs were really scarce. They were really hard to get hold of, and the price of Shining Fates went right up. Hidden Fates, right up. And then we started seeing booster boxes, Vivid Voyage booster boxes. We started seeing Dancer Blaze booster boxes. I remember picking up, I'm not even kidding, I remember paying 180 for a Vivid Voyage booster box back in 2021, and it was crazy. It was like mind-blowing crazy expensive. I mean, now you can get them for like 130, 135, you know, quite easily, and it was just the crazy time we're in. And that was just the way it went, right? So now I'm kind of happy that Pokemon, you know, I'll give you an example, right? Charizard UPC. there was so much talk about the Charizard UPC, and when we kind of like heard about the set, well, that product coming out, a lot of people were comparing it to the Celebrations one, right? Celebrations came out, and I think the retail price was like 150. It was really hard to get hold of. The price shot right up over 300, now 350 or whatever it is, and it went crazy, absolutely crazy. So a lot of people thinking, you know, on my days, Charizard UPC, it's Charizard, it's a UPC, it's gonna go absolutely crazy, it's gonna go to the moon. There's a ton around. I mean, the price was shot right up when it came out. I remember it was really hard to pre-order here, and some of them went up to like 170, 180 on eBay, and it was like, you know, the retail price I believe was like 120. Some were even selling for nearly 200, and there was like maybe a couple of months passed, and then there was like a big wave reprint, and it was huge. I mean, absolutely massive. And then they kept reprinting more and more and more, and they just made more and more to meet that demand. And now, like I say, UPCs, Charizard ones, you can get for like $100 roughly. Over here in the UK, you can get them for just under £100. And in my opinion, I still think it's one of the best money that you can spend. Like best, I say best money, but yeah, one of the best products to buy, to open, to get value for your money, just because you get Evolving Skies packs. I mean, how expensive they are. It contains so many different Sword and Shield era, you know, sets. As you can see, it's starting to climb. It's now about $125. So there's going to start being less and less of these out there. Eventually, all the stuff becomes harder and harder to get hold of. If we go back a year, we can give you an example. So yes, it has slowly tricked up over time, but like I say, there were really, you know, high expensive points of this set, and there goes a risk right there. If you know, went in on this at $180 or £180, and you've seen it going for 100 for the longest time, it would feel kind of bad, right? You're like, wow, I've basically lost like 50% of what I've already paid for. This is too risky. You know, some people choose to sell it, some people choose to hold it. And you know, I've got 2 sealed in my collection that I bought. I think I bought mine for maybe like 110, 115 when they first came out. So you know, it's not like I spent really cheap price for it or overpaid, but I did overpay for one. I'm not even kidding. To open one for this channel, I wanted to open one not long after the release, and I think I paid like 150. Yeah, I paid 150 to open up a UPC for a video, and it's, you know, it was a risk. Did it pay off? I mean, the video did well, so yeah, it kind of paid off, but I still paid over retail or something. So, you know, yes, there is risk. This is an example of one in particular with the Charizard UPC. Another big risk is reprints. Now, this is something which some people like, some people don't like of reprints. For me, I actually like reprints. I think reprints are a fantastic thing to happen, especially when things get a little bit out of hand within the time frame of a set being released. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Obviously, we've seen, you know, Evolving Skies reach incredible heights. For the longest time, there's been so much talk of there's going to be a reprint, there's going to be another reprint. This was when booster boxes were reached 200, 250, 300. I remember doing a video saying, you know, I don't feel like at the time that Evolving Skies was worth putting your money in when it was like 250 a box. And at the time, there was so much discussion on reprints, and also the set was still in rotation for the game, and at the time it was only out maybe not even 18 months, and it was like there is a reprint window to be had here. So there may be one coming. If you spend 250 and it drops down to 100, and it's just the way it is. However, there has been recently an example of a reprint which some people have been stung by, and that is the Pokemon Japanese 151. A lot of people have been stung by this. You know, this is a set which it came out already way too high and way too expensive, and I talked about this before. And it's like, you know, it is a risk. It is a risk to take when buying anything, of course, but this was a big risk. And did it pay off? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But look, if you bought these boxes, you know, for 200 a box, and you know these reprints happen, and already I've been seeing some sold for, you know, around about, you know, 100 or less. I mean, we go back a little bit further, over 6 months, we can see that these were over 200 a box. And you know, we've got sale prices, you know, around the 100 mark or under 100. Over here in the UK, I was seeing booster boxes go for like 180, 190, and now you can pick them up. I mean, some people about 80, 90 a box, depending on where you shop. You know, will it go back up? Who knows? The Pokemon company might turn around and go, you know what, and you know, 5 to 6 months time, we're going to reprint it again. It could happen. It genuinely could happen. Don't forget, this set hasn't even been out a year. So I think that's one thing you got to keep into consideration, guys, is this could get reprinted. Again, it's a risk if you buy it, but that is a risk that, you know, you got to kind of keep an eye on, is reprints. We saw that happen with Shining Face as well. That set, we talked about it, you know, I talked about it earlier, where it was really high during the pandemic. That set got reprinted into the ground heavily. And, you know, if you spent 60, 70 for an ETB and the ETBs aren't shifting even at 40, it's tough. You know, you do, of course, that was a big risk that hadn't yet paid off essentially. So it was one to consider when it comes to reprints as well, especially sets that are still in that standard rotation or within like a 2-year window that they could. There is a big risk around hype, especially when it comes to single cards. Now, like I say, usually with sealed product as a rule, it tends to go up over time. But with single cards, yeah, they do kind of get, you know, manipulated quite easily. And we've seen it already with some of the Scarlet and Violet era cards like the Magikarp and the Moy's Conviction. And we have seen it a little bit in the Sword and Shield era as well with the Umbreon V from Evolving Skies. And a few others as well. But I do feel like, you know, the main one was from Sun and Moon. The main one was Sun and Moon when we had the big waifu phrase and the tag team arts. A lot of those cards were hyped and went crazy last year. And then they dropped massively. Example would be Lily Full Art from Ultra Prism. Of course, Ultra Prism has the most expensive trainer card that we've seen in a very long time. And look what happened here, guys. This has happened over the past year. So the second half of last year, 2023, a lot of the Sun and Moon era waifu cards and the OR tag team cards went crazy. They saw their biggest boom going. And we're seeing it right now with the Sword and Shield era. I will be doing a video covering them soon. I'm just waiting for, I think, the dust to settle, but I think it's going to settle anytime soon. But yeah, it's going a bit crazy. So the old arts and the, you know, waifu cards did really well, and then they kind of hit their all-time highs. This one hit 520, and since then, since like October, November time, it has been dropping since. So from $520 down to $400, and it's looking like it's continuing to drop. You know, if you bought in at 500, you feel kind of bad, right? Like if you bought at this peak, all it kept doing was going up, and then it just took a horrible turn. That's kind of scary, you know, and that is a risk you take. This might not bounce back. Whereas sealed product gradually goes up over time, this may not bounce back. So, you know, unless there's another, I guess, another big craze. I mean, the craze now is the Sword and Shield arts. But this is something you got, this is the risk and something you got to take into consideration. This is what I do as well, is when buying single cards, you know, if you just want them for your collection and you're not too worried that much about the value, you just want to have it, then, you know, it kind of is what it is. But ideally you want to buy at a cheaper point, right? You don't want to be like, oh, you know, if I can add in my collection of $400, great, I wouldn't want to be spending $520. No, absolutely not. So, you know, there's something you'll be careful when you do get kind of like big pumps, as it were. Now we look at another alt art. This is the tag team alt art. This is one that I used to have in my collection. I did get it graded and got PSA 9. Kind of sucks. And I kept seeing the price of this card kept going up and up and up and up and up. I bought this raw for about 45, and then it went all the way up to 175, and I was gutted. Honestly, I was like, oh, really? When I sold it, I maybe sold it for like 70, maybe in a PSA 9. And this went crazy, and I was like, wow, oh well. Kind of wish I held on to it, but it is what it is. And now look at it, it's dropped, bang, it's now down to 120, the lowest point in the past 12 months. And that's what happens. You know, you got to be careful with a lot of these cards. Will this happen, you know, with the Umbreon, Moonbreon? Will this happen with all the, you know, Giratinas and stuff? Potentially. And that's the risk you run. You want to spend, well, I think it's nearly $1,000 for a Moonbreon. Could it fall in 2025, 2026 and beyond? Who knows? We just don't know. But looking at previous booms, as it were, or, you know, maybe manipulation of particular cards, always is a risk. So those are just some of the risks. Of course, there's many others which, you know, you could look out for as well, especially like card quality when you buy single cards and stuff like that. But one thing I will say is buy what you like. At the end of the day, if you like it, it shouldn't matter too much. You know, one thing I like to try and show is what are the cheapest price points, so you can buy the things you like, so you don't have to, you're not overpaying, you know, for certain stuff, if you know what's going on in the market with regard to the prices. But also, to minimize your risk is like diversify what you buy. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. For me, I like to get one booster box of each set, so one of each of the Sword and Shield era, and then if there's one I particularly like, then I might get more. And if there's one where I do genuinely feel like, you know what, I feel this is performing well, or this set has the potential to perform well, then I kind of ride that wave a little bit and pick up some of the ones, you know, that do well. Fusion Strike is a prime example. Over here in the UK, as the filming of this video, is still available on the Pokemon Center website, so I can pick them up for like 145, 150 a box. You know, you kind of want to ride that wave a little bit and get a good bargain, as it were. I'm a sucker for a bargain. You want to diversify, you know, and yes, I have Evolving Skies, or a little bit more Evolving Skies than one box. Same with Fusion Strike, same with Chilling Reign, same with Lost Origin. But then there's other sets as well, which I have more than one box of that isn't necessarily doing very well. You know, I had multiple boxes of Vivid Voltage. I mean, I sold them because I needed the money and they weren't really moving much. And I was like, you know what? Just offload it, you know, get rid of it and, you know, kind of use the money elsewhere, which is basically what I had to do. But there's always risk, so I wouldn't, you know, throw your money into it. I mean, I would say on average, I spend about maybe 10% of what I have is in Pokemon. And, you know, maybe some months I might spend a little bit more, some months I might spend a little bit less. All depends with, you know, right now in the world, with cost of everything going up and just living is more expensive, it is definitely getting harder and harder to be able to sink as much money as I would like into certain products. But that's what I say, that's why I'm always, you know, out here looking for the lowest risks possible at the cheapest price. Cheaper it is, the lower the risk. That's usually my little thing I say to myself. But also FOMO as well. FOMO is a real big risk. Don't go into the FOMO, because that is one thing that I think a lot of people end up going into, and it really can sting you if you do, you know, have that big fear of missing out. Because yeah, it is a killer. You know, I've done it before. That's why I paid, you know, I paid more money for a Charizard UPC. Kind of feels bad, right? And it's that fear of missing out. You know, Celebrations UPC I've always wanted in my collection. I still don't have. Yes, it's a lot more expensive now than it was when I could have got it. It is what it is. If I do want it down the line, then I'm going to have to pay the price. But yeah, there's always a risk. Single cards, I think, are probably run a little bit higher risk than they do with sealed product. But hey, those are just some examples of risks. Of course, I kind of felt like it was something a bit different for us to talk about today. Give you guys my honest thoughts and opinions regarding the risks, of course, because there's always these risks. And that's one thing I do like to say to you guys. Buy what you like. You can't go wrong. And if you have the money, you know, then up to you whether or not you choose to get it. Like I say, I do feel like stuff like Evolving Skies is very, very expensive, you know, for an entry point. If you don't have it, don't worry, don't sweat it. You know, if you want to start investing and, you know, tucking away sealed product for the long term, get things while they're cheap, because they have a lower level risk than buying something that's going up and up and up, as we've seen with the Sun and Moon cards. Just the way it goes. If you've made this far into the video, guys, and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button and make sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content. And I want to know your guys' thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the risks of Pokemon investing? Do you feel like this is something that needs to be mentioned more? I feel like it's definitely something that needs to be mentioned more, and there's been a lot of talks of, you know, discussion and topics regarding this. Is in the fact is that, you know, the evidence is there, and the fact is that, you know, sealed product does very well and single cards can do well, but there is risks involved. But if you want to know what's going on in the Pokemon market right now, then make sure to click the video on screen. If you want to watch more Pokemon content, guys, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Alright guys, that is it from me in today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.